Welcome back to the Art of Safe Scumming, and I'm going to be wrapping up my army composition series for the Chaos Dwarves. Basically, anything that you field with the Chaos Dwarves is going to be super overpowered. They just steamroll just about everybody, especially when you are considering the Hellforge upgrades as well as their immense tech tree. I mean, it's got three different sections on the tech tree that just absolutely wipes the floor with just about everybody that they're going to go up against, even towards the late game. So the question is, you've started your steamroll, as you can see up here, and you're covering a lot of territory. And while I'm looking pretty good right now as far as my economy is concerned, I've got a lot of border to defend. And don't get me wrong, like this section right here is really easy to defend because I have a bunch of allies there. Same thing with these regions over here in like Cathay. This is all conquered. However, it used to not be that way. And there was a period of time where you're basically pushing for territory in a particular direction and then holding a defensive line. So how do you hold that defensive line with the Chaos Dwarves? Well, I have an example here. I'm not quite ready to go to war with the Empire yet. I have some more things to sort of tidy up in this region over here before I can really take them on full strength. However, in the meantime, I can do my best to tick them off by raiding their regions and raising defensive armies in particular places. So I thought I would give you a look at what I use to hold that defensive line. This army is pretty cheap, and it's really capable, especially when you consider that this army is going to be paired with any garrison that you have in the region. So you're going to hold that defensive line at your settlements by taking this lord, setting him in ambush stance, and then after he's in ambush stance, the attacking enemy lord is going to see this garrison and say, okay, I'm going to bring enough force to take on this garrison. And don't get me wrong, this is a strong garrison because I've got it built up a little bit. I wouldn't, if I were you, take your garrisons past tier 3 because then the AI is unlikely to attack those, and it's likely to go for your minor settlements, which are oftentimes harder to defend. And having a setup, for instance, like Fleesburg here, is set up as a factory. That's going to be a minor settlement siege, so that's a easier time to defend than, say, Needling over here that is set up as an outpost, which is not going to have as good a garrison. This is supposed to be an army composition video, so let's actually look at the composition. We have just a few armaments that we're going to use, and those are in the form of the blunderbusses. These are going to form the center where we're just going to shred bad guys as they come up on us, and then a few in the form of an iron demon. Now, you can use whatever war machine you want. This is really just for siege attacker once things start getting kicked off and we need to take settlements, but then also I really like the Iron Demon because it acts as a chariot and has a cannon on it. So I use this predominantly to break through an enemy's lines because it has a lot of mass and then go after their artillery. The rest of it is full of basically hobgoblins and trash. So our backline, couple archers to be able to hit their archers when they come up on us so we can fire over our lines, and some stealth units to put on either flank and the rear to defend against cavalry. I find the Hobgoblin Sneaky Gets do really good against like Reichsguard because the Reichsguard's going to like rush in, try to hit the flanks, and then it's going to determine that there's a unit there too late and it's going to get hit with their missile attack. So I find these to do an exceptional job, even though they are not anti-large. They do a really good job against single cav units. And then right in our center, we're actually going to steal a unit of Chaos Warriors to make a strong center so that if we do have any melee units come up on our blunderbusses or get mixed in our archer line, then we have something to form a pivot point to fire on those units. Now, like I said, I'm not quite ready to go to war with the Empire yet, so instead of using this army as an example, what I'm going to do is actually set up a custom battle, just like a skirmish against AI, and show you basically how to use this army defensively. But the thing about that is you're also going to have these reinforcements that are going to come in. Your garrison's going to come in, and basically you're going to set this formation up like I'm going to show you to set it up. And then when this garrison shows up, you just march it right in front, let it take all of the damage, and use your Dreadquake mortar that you've got stacked up here to do massive quantities of damage. And you don't really care if you hit your own units with that, because they're garrison units. They're going to regenerate anyway. So the only thing that we're going to change here is, because I can't grab Chaos Warriors, because this is going to be a skirmish battle, I'm going to replace this with some Dwarf Warriors, which are going to be relatively comparable. And I'm also not going to take the caster, because this is about the army composition. It's not really about how well you can use magic, but you should have some magic there. You could run this with the Demonsmith Sorcerer as your lord, but I prefer to run the Overseer, because he gives you upkeep reduction for this army that's basically just going to sit there. So farm yourself a decent trait to sit on the border, preferably something that increases the local funding, or maybe maintains control or something like that, to the best of your ability. And here we are. First step is to go ahead and grab hold of all of those archers. Go ahead and set them up in a checkerboard. This is going to be our backbone of our army, and setting them up like this will allow us to have some crossfire capabilities in case they perforate that front line. Next up, we're going to take our Chaos Dwarf Warriors that are going to stand in for our Chaos Warriors. They're going to be our pivot point on our army, and we want to set them kind of forward ever so slightly in an advantageous position to do a lot of melee. And then we're going to take our Chaos Dwarf Blunderbusses, one apiece, and set them in an outboard facing formation, and these are going to just absolutely shred anything that walks up on them. We want to set them a little bit farther back, because we don't want them to actually get into melee until they've used a substantial proportion of their ammunition. Then we're going to take our Cutthroats, put them kind of right outside the range of the Blunderbusses in case they need to supplement. We'll then take the Sneaky Gits. Actually, first we'll take the trash, and we'll set the trash up kind of sort of like this. And the purpose of the trash is to kind of sit there in reserve, and when the lines converge, we're going to throw the trash in there and let it just sit there and get chewed up. We don't care if it gets hit by the blunderbusses. We don't care if we lose them. They're cheap to replace, and you can replace them everywhere. And we'll do the same thing on the other side, right outside of the Cutthroats, and then another in reserve. And then we're going to take our Sneaky Gits, and we're going to put one there, and one there. And we should probably tighten them up a little bit. The purpose of this is to watch out for cavalry, as I mentioned. This formation looks the same to the enemy, except for the Sneaky Gits do not appear because they are stalking. So the cavalry is going to want to come in here and take that nice juicy flank right there. Is going to run into some Sneaky Gits missiles, and because they're disadvantaged from being hit with the missiles, the Sneaky Gits do a pretty good job of taking out things like Reichsguard and the like. We're then going to take our Lord, pick a side, whichever one you think is going to do the most melee, and stick him in the gap right in front of those blunderbusses. And then our Iron Demon here, we're going to do our best to take out the artillery with this. And remember that if this was a real battle, that you would be having Dreadquake mortars, a whole bunch of army abilities and things like that to help you out. And then on top of that, you're going to have a whole bunch of reinforcements to stack right in front of your units, and you can bomb them with the Dreadquake mortar. You don't really care because they're garrison units. They're going to regenerate anyway. So anyway, we don't have the luxury of that, so I'm just going to show you this straight up. You can see the balance of power looks pretty even. And actually, I would classify this as in the Empire's favor because they, I believe they outnumber us. I'm not entirely sure on that, but they definitely have a higher quality army than we do. We just have some more capabilities. Now, first off, you can see that the Reichsguard might be a problem. So if we get some pot shots in here on the Reichsguard, then perhaps we can get them to charge after us and get chewed up by our army. But we can also just sit here and waste the mortar fire if we feel so inclined, because, well, they're not really doing any damage to us whatsoever. That might have been a good enough shot to... Yep. Reichsguard are now aggroed. Push our button there, get some extra speed. And hopefully we can get the Reichsguard to chase us right into this firing line. Although this is a terrible setup. I did not check the terrain. That was almost really bad. So while my army reorganizes there, hopefully the... oh, I don't know. Oh, yep, they're coming. Come on in. All right, reset. We'll be able to take out at least one of those units of Reichsguard, I think. Yeah, they're going to commit. Hitting their own units with their mortars. Nice. And, of course, we would normally have a sorcerer in this army. I did not bring the sorcerer because, look, I could fly the sorcerer over there, do a whole bunch of damage to him, and, wow, look at that. He knows how to use magic, right? Congratulations. So, Reichsguard getting shredded. And you'll notice that we set these so that they can't... they are firing into our Chaos Dwarves. That's not what we want. It's not ideal, but... Okay, one unit of Reichsguard out. That should probably be enough to aggro the rest of them. Go ahead and fire on that one. Come on. You can do it. There it is. Yeah, they're going to commit now. Now, the reason we're doing this here is because the Reichsguard are totally capable of holding up my Iron Demon, which is kind of disappointing. I would hope that that extra mass would allow them to push through. But I could, I suppose, just have set this up so that it was an all-infantry army, but that's not what the Empire's going to bring. They're going to bring some artillery. They're going to bring some war machines. They're going to bring some cav. So I feel like it's... This is a realistic army composition for the Empire. And you can see that mortars hitting our trash up front. That's kind of how we want it. And now we can start moving some of that trash to be able to soak up some of the infantry charge. And once we get the rest of this Reichsguard out of here, we can start taking out that artillery. Hopefully before it does a whole lot of damage to our cannon fodder here. And I think that's probably good enough. I think that we're going to call that good. We're going to go ahead and charge this through. We do have to watch out a little bit for the missiles with the Iron Demon. They are relatively armor-piercing, so we just got to be a little bit careful. And we got smacked by some Reichsguard there. And we'll go ahead and bring the next layer of trash up to kind of form our base in here. Come on, Iron Demon. Do your thing, man. What are you doing? He's stuck. All right, so now we're in a situation where we have to be a little bit careful because they outrange us a bit. So what we need to do is actually The best thing to do would be to use magic, but since I left it at home, we're going to have to probably just soak it up. But since we took out all of the Reichsguard already, we can probably just use the sneaky gits to put some pressure on those archers, because we can't really move these archers up quite yet. We can do these ones on the flanks here. The ones on the wings, they can move up a little bit. And then we'll go ahead and move the cutthroats through to put some pressure on and support our trash with some more trash. We could probably run that down, but we really do need to put some pressure on those archers because they're going to start hitting our blunderbuss units, and that's not going to be good. They do not do very well against archer fire. Lord's soaking up some heat there. What do we got going on here? Oh, our Iron Demon made it through. So we're going to put him on melee and run him back there. And guys, I think we got this one in the bag. Again, remember, this army is going to be so much more capable when we're talking about it on the campaign map, because it's just going to be able to use that ambush trap right next to the settlement. And yeah, there comes in the mortars. What's going on back here? Why aren't you doing your job? And go ahead and put some pressure on those guys. There we go, and we'll just run those cutthroats in there, and the Chaos Dwarf Warriors, might as well commit them. We can move the rest of these blunderbusses up to start getting some fire on that archer line. And what is this? More hobgoblin archers. Yep, and there you have it. I think that's going to be army losses. I think army losses, maybe. Nope, doesn't look like it. We routed, yep, there it is. We can see how it stacked up. We lost 375 of our 2,000. They didn't outnumber us. We outnumbered them, but they definitely had quality on their side when you look at just having this trash out there. And probably most of this damage was actually caused by our blunderbusses shooting into them, but that's by design because these guys can be replaced so easily on the campaign map. Anyway, that's my look at a defensive composition for the Chaos Dwarves. Again, if you're trying to set up a line of defense against somebody that you are imminently going to war with, are already at war with, but don't have the resources to deal with at that point in time, or if you just simply need to build your economy up to be able to manufacture more quality armies, or wrap up, like I said, in a region that you're not quite done with and then divert those armies over there, this is a good thing to manufacture in mass. And of course, you can tweak this a little bit to fit your personal play style, but pretty cheap on the upkeep. And the other thing that I like to do as a side note is, you can see here, I've got another just absolute trash army in the region, pretty cheap on the upkeep. This is here antagonizing the Empire to come over this way by raiding their regions. But then also, what were the units that we lost a whole bunch of? These guys, right? So I can replenish the trash as it dies off with this army. And then particularly if you have the Tower of Tsar ability that does the campaign movement range, I think it's in tier 1. Yeah, right here. Campaign movement range after winning a battle. Particularly if you are in a tight region, like for instance down here in this section of the Empire, you can get more than one battle in a turn with an army. And having a second army there to occupy those settlements after you sack them is a big help. So not only replenishment, not only gaining some labor, but also to capture settlements that otherwise would take up some of your primary army's movement. Again, defensive setup for the Chaos Dwarves. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and thanks for watching The Art of Safe Scumming.